can see. No one can see.
Just a little bit nervous.
Mhm.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. This episode's going to be really good. I'm really looking forward to digging into this with Mike. This is Mike. If you don't already know, I'm pretty sure everybody already does. My name's Chastity, by the way, if you don't know that. But I'm really looking forward to getting into this with you today, Mike. I like to talk a little bit about addiction, but I think what's most important to me is honing in on this drug suboxone. It's not just thousands, it's millions of people that are stuck on this shit. And not too long ago, I decided to document my journey, and you reached out to me. So I'm looking for that you had experienced the same thing, and it was very hard for you. And you kind of helped me. You did help me get through that, and I'm very appreciative for that. But let's get started. Can you tell us like a little bit about yourself? You're the Wandering Wolf on YouTube, and you travel around and you do lots of cool things. Let's get into that.
Yeah, well, first, let me just say thank you so much for having me on. It's great to connect, and I've enjoyed all the conversations and different things and ways we've been able to encourage each other.
Yeah.
I was so happy seeing you go through that process of getting off Suboxone and to see you make it. I know how tough it is.
Yeah.
It is, one of the toughest things that I've ever been through. And I know we'll get into all that, but yeah, you can't really separate what I do from this journey. Getting off Suboxone, getting off drugs, started this whole process of on the other side of it, wondering what I was going to do with my life. And I think eventually I realized I needed to replace some of this stuff with something that I was passionate about. And it was ancient history. I've always, for a long time been really into this. So I started traveling the world and filming ancient sites, and it's turned into what it's turned into today. And, all of this kind of ties in together. We were just talking about how important it is to me with what I do to not just document these places, but I hope I'm putting something out there that's impactful in a way that with people that encourages them to go out and pursue things that they love too on their own. And that very much ties into getting sober, moving over, getting past that, that oppressiveness of feeling addicted.
Yeah.
And like something's controlling your life. And that was really important for me, was pursuing freedom and my passions. And I'm doing that now. And, I'm on the other side of it. So, I wake up every day now and I'm grateful for what I have now, because I remember how bad it was. There's so many days where I can look back and I remember how bad it was. And that really gives me, it enables me to live with a sense of gratitude on a daily basis. So,
Well, I'll tell you, you impacted me because I'd reach out to you every once in a while when I was kind of having a hard time, and you would be like, just take lots of showers, just listen to your body, sleep when you can. You really kind of helped me get through it. And just knowing that you went through that and you made it out on the other end. And then you inspired me a little bit, to do a podcast too. And it was really cool because when I told you that, the way that you responded to me was so inspirational. You were like, well, congratulations on the next beautiful chapter of your life. Like this most inspiring response. Right. And I'm like, bro, hell yeah, man. So, you really,
I think we had mutual friends. So you popped up in my timeline.
Yeah.
You were sharing what you were going through.
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking maybe I can leave a comment here and be encouraging. And
you did.
Look at you now.
You did, awesome. And it was.
That's amazing. Watching the strength and resiliency that you showed going through that. And I think anybody that's watching that's been through something like this, especially with Suboxone, has gone to the other side, knows what a challenge it is. So watching you go through that, like sharing it publicly while you were, struggling through that, um, was inspiring, and yeah, hats off to you, because what you're doing now is just such a huge change. And it's clear to me, we talked before, and I think I shared this with you. It's clear to me how much you enjoy doing this and how much you enjoy helping people, and that's amazing.
Yeah, I love it. I really do. I really do. I love it. Like people will come like, so what would you do? I'm like, oh, I
Yeah,
know something. Like people are like, actually need me. Yeah. So
it's
yeah,
awesome.
thank you. I really do enjoy it. I do get a little bit feisty though sometimes, right? Like because I talk to so many people and we've felt their pain, and not everybody, has the luxury of being able, I've been caring for my mom, and I've had blah, the luxury
Yeah.
of being able to get off of that shit from home. And if you've gotten off of it, it's not something that happens not in a month, I mean, it takes like a year. And I remember you kind of mentioning that to me too. So thank you for that compliment. I kind of want to let's start getting into how, where this started for you, Mike, because I always say for me, I was running from myself. I was running from really screwed up situations and shit. And I was constantly getting messed up, but my addiction did not start until I was in the doctor's office, truly.
Mm. Yeah, um, drugs and alcohol and stuff like that for me was something that started young. I had a troubled childhood. I think it was something that a lot of me and my closest friends, who by the way are like my family, we're still friends, some of us 30 plus years.
I love that. That's beautiful.
But when we were younger, when we were teenagers, this was something that we really kind of used to bond. And it was just a way of life. It was every day, all day when we could, and drinking and partying and stuff. Somewhere in there, um, it turned into something else. I had some friends die. One of my best friends died. He overdosed when I was 19. We had other friends pass away. And a buddy of mine, there weren't a whole lot of options for me. College wasn't on the table, stuff like that. And so, I joined the army with a buddy.
Mm-hmm.
I served for about 3 years, and then, you know, uh, after I got out, I went right back to drinking and stuff, and some of that progressed into um, drugs again. And it really became, instead of just partying, it really became a way of, for me, coping with things in my life instead of facing them.
Mm-hmm.
As I was becoming an adult, and there were a lot of things that were really hard for me to look at in my life about myself. And a lot of it, you know, um, no fault of my own, these were things that were done to me. But, I didn't have the skills to, in a healthy way,
Yep.
manage a lot of this.
Yep.
I had never had anything of any type of like healthy example modeled to me.
Right.
And drugs were an easy fix for all that. And that progressed over the years. Eventually, from pills to, it's the typical story, right?
Right.
Pills,
Yeah.
harder stuff, to
Right.
eventually shooting heroin.
Mm-hmm.
And being addicted to heroin, that went on for a long time, um, until it progressed to a point of speedballing and shooting up heroin and cocaine at the same time.
Right. That's one thing I never tried. Um, that was the one I've done it all, but that was the one thing I didn't try. I don't know. There was just something about, I did heroin, I shot up heroin. But there was just something about me putting an upper. See, so that's why it's interesting to me, because you said your body didn't like upper. So that was
I
interesting.
don't like uppers now.
But I've heard that, not that it matters, but it's something different doing it that way. Do you mind that I ask why it progressed that? Because would you say that adding that coke or adding that whatever that was in there for speedballing was kind of lifting you back up, helping you kind of navigate it? Is that why people do that?
I just wasn't getting high anymore. I was
Gotcha.
just not, I was just trying not to get sick. And I think I had
Mm.
at some point somewhere close to an $8,000 a month habit.
Shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really bad. I was to the point where I was tying up and shooting up at my door with the door cracked and my foot out the door.
Wow.
And then as soon as I was done putting everything down and getting down to the parking lot as fast as I could in the apartment complex, so if I overdosed, somebody would find me.
Wow.
And it was, you know, those years, some of it, a lot of it's a blur. I was
Yeah.
really lost. I was miserable. Um, and I think anybody that's been through stuff like this, you can relate in a way that your sense of self-worth to do this type of stuff to yourself has to be in the absolute gutter.
Right.
And it was for me. And I think, you know, when I finally started seeking help,
Mhm.
you know, I tried. There were so many things that I tried to manage, and this type of stuff is unmanageable. It always is eventually.
Oh yeah.
And you know, eventually, you know, I had a come to Jesus moment, literally in my bathroom where I broke down and I was staring at myself in the mirror, and you know, I had money, I had a good job, I could afford this expensive habit. Um, I was real clean and organized with all my stuff. So there's all these excuses that I would make in my head, and I remember just not being able to do it anymore and looking in the mirror. And I remember pointing at myself and saying, you're a junkie. You're a junkie." And
Wow.
I said it, I don't know, 3 or 4 times.
Mhm.
You know, talking about it right now takes me back to that moment. It's kind of tough, but I remember saying it in the mirror, looking in my own eyes and saying it, and it
Wow.
was a moment of recognition that I was absolutely powerless against this,
Right.
and I didn't know what to do.
Right.
I turned it
Yeah.
over to God. I asked for help, and then I started seeking help. That's what took me to the VA eventually.
Yeah. That's what I
Um,
was gonna
I
ask
know
you.
we've talked about that before, and that's what eventually led me to suboxone.
Was heroin. Okay.
Uh,
And so you've withdrawal off of heroin though
Many
successfully.
times. Yeah.
Okay. And you also have come off of, so do you want to get into the Suboxone and thank you for sharing that. I appreciate all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
We're similar in some ways. And I think we're very similar in some ways. And we both have moms that suck. They suck. Anyways, no, I'm sorry. I speak on behalf of mine. No, but it seems like we've kind of gone through similar things. I don't know why your energy just kind of resonates with me, you know? So I really appreciate you sharing all of that. So
Yeah.
let's get into the Suboxone because you have told me that because that's where my heart's at. I mean, addiction, yes, 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 but this is where my heart's at. There's so many people stuck on this shit, and that is what the universe did, kind of aligned. It was a beautiful thing how the universe aligned you like us together so that for this right now.
Right.
Because then I created this Facebook page, and now there's like 700 people there, all helping each other, navigate very similar battles.
Which is
And
amazing, by the way. I love seeing that.
thank you. Yeah, I knew you would. I knew you would appreciate it. I don't know why I didn't invite you like at the very beginning. I don't think we were like, I was like wondering. Anyways, I knew you would appreciate that. And I also knew it would be helpful for the other people involved, but I don't know if you ever were around when like people were asking if I could make it private. And I'm like, and I sat with that for a little bit, and I'm like, I'm not going to do that, because that's exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. We don't need to hide this shit anymore. There's too many people that have this as a dark secret that don't feel like they can turn to anybody because of the judgment that this world holds on just this shit, and so I didn't make it private. And I think it was probably one of the more better decisions I had. And I will tell you, that guy did end up coming back, and he was like, you know what, you're right. I'm not going to hide this shit. Blah, 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 blah. That was my journey. I battled through it, and I'm a stronger person because of it. And I'm like, absolutely. So
Yeah, somebody just left a message on my Facebook about some of this, and it's that I understand the concern, somebody asking for that, right?
Okay.
But at the same time, you have to this is what we're not doing, is bringing this into the light enough, and it needs to come out to the light.
Yes.
And what people are going through, it needs to be destigmatized and talked about. It's literally an epidemic that's killing people across the country. And if you don't talk about it, you can't come up with solutions. When you bring stuff out, it's hard, but there's accountability. All of a sudden, you're accountable to yourself and the people that you talk to. You get yourself in the position to help people and be there for other people, which again puts accountability on you. It's a process, and like we talked about before, getting off any of this stuff, it's not like you do something and the next day you're sober forever.
Right.
Most people, like our stories, it's taken years of ups and downs and ups and downs, and if you stick with it, it keeps getting better.
Yeah.
But having ups and downs is part of the process. You're rewiring and learning all sorts of ways, healthy ways to handle stuff. But
Right.
it does take a while.
Yeah. You know what? I always like to kind of talk about this, and I've kind of been repetitive with it, but I'd like to share it with you because I don't think I have with you. When I first came off of, I think I told you I was on Suboxone, Adderall, Xanax, and Ambien. I bullshit you not. I know I was on all that shit. And when I had this awakening and decided to come off of all that, I cut it all cold turkey, and I was like bound to my bed. So I went back on Suboxone and managed to get off of everything else. But one of the things that was really screwed with me, so I kept all that medication in my purse, like zipped up, and that was always the first thing I did when I woke up. The very first thing I did when I woke up for years and years was reach over to that purse, open that shit up, take those pills out, So when that all came to a halt, I mean, the cycle, like the way it screwed with my mind every morning, like I even like grabbed vitamins and put it in there because it was fucking with me so hardcore. And I was like, no, I got to break all of that. That's literally what you're talking about, rewiring your brain, because it just get into these same patterns. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You went through the Suboxone fight alone, didn't you? You didn't have anybody to talk to, did you?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really tough. I had spent years isolating myself from my friends because they didn't approve of what I was doing. And if they knew how badly I had got into all these things, they clearly would have, probably tried to intervene more. We'd already lost several friends to drugs in our lives, that continued. I've lost more.
Yeah,
and so I'd isolated myself very effectively in order to keep this going. So when I'd never heard of Suboxone. I'd heard of methadone, but never heard of Suboxone. And my healthcare was through the VA because I served in the military. And I went in for help. They were very, well, let's just say the resources allotted for this were less than adequate. And so, you're allowed one mental health session, and they gave me 3, and that was over the limit. And then they cut me off from any type of mental health care. And then they sent me to a doctor who put me on Suboxone.
Okay. Did he educate you about it at all?
What's that?
Did he educate you about it at all?
Didn't educate me about it at all.
Of course he did.
I didn't know anything about it. And back then, I just took his word for it. I just wanted some help, and I trusted. And here's the thing. I was in the system since the time I've been in the system since I've been like 13, 14. You know, I was taken away from my home. I was in and out of facilities and residential homes and things from 14 to 18.
Yeah.
And, I was familiar with the system.
Yeah.
For some reason, I just, trusted and hoped that somebody was going to just, be looking out for my best interest.
Of course.
So they put me on Suboxone, and I don't remember exactly how long I was on it. I was on it for a bit. And then, there's something just, there's a part of me that this has been good and bad over the years, but there's a part of me that just won't submit and doesn't like feeling like I'm very stubborn in that way. And there's a part of me that just does not like feeling like I'm controlled, right? I'll burn it all down over being controlled, right? I walk away. And, job, work, whatever, anything.
Yeah.
And I felt so controlled. It was a restricted life, and I could see that. I could only ever do what I could do in the context of having this Suboxone, which means traveling or anything for the rest of my life. If I stayed on it like they wanted me to do, it would all be revolving around Suboxone, my use of Suboxone, my access to Suboxone.
Right.
And that's very controlling. It felt very controlling. And ultimately, really, for me, it wasn't about the drugs. I never really thought it was the drugs. It was for me, it was like, why am I using the drugs? There was a deeper question inside of me that was asking, why am I so different from other people? Why am I doing it? Why do I have to do everything to the point of almost killing myself?
Yeah.
Like, what is it? What's going on inside of me that's causing me to behave this way?
Right.
And so there was a deeper question there that I was trying to get to the root of, which is, what happened to you that that makes you do this? I didn't look at the drugs as being the problem. I looked at the drugs as being a symptom of the problem.
Right.
And so as I tried to navigate that, I realized that I needed to try to get off Suboxone and just be free of all of it. That was my goal. And so I started weaning myself off Suboxone. And this is coffee, by the way.
You always say that. You always say that I believe you.
Well, it's in like a whiskey glass, so I mean, I don't want anybody drinking.
Yeah. You got that cold brew stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I drink coffee too. It's all good. I got kombucha.
So I started weaning myself off Suboxone.
Okay.
And then I had an appointment with my doctor at the VA, and I went in to see him. I was supposed to get my next subscription, my next whatever prescription for Suboxone.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked me how I was going, and I let him know what I was doing, and that, blah blah blah. And I mean, just as cold as I've ever seen anybody, he was like, blank face. He was like, well, you've deviated from the plan, from our established healthcare plan. And I was like, okay, well, this is what I want to do. I want to, get off of this. That's why I'm doing this. And I let him know what, everything that I just explained to you.
Right.
And he was like, well, since you deviated from the plan, we're cutting you off. I'm cutting you off.
You've never fucking told me that. Like, you've told me, you see how riddled up I get. You told me a little bit, but you never told me that. I've never heard you say that. Pisses me off so bad because of the pushback.
Yeah. So he cut me off right then and there. Not only did he cut me off, I said, that means, I said, what do you mean you're cutting me off? I'll be going into withdrawals tonight.
Right.
I'll start withdrawing tonight if you don't fill my subscription, my prescription.
Right.
And he was like, well, that's what it is. And now, if you don't mind, I have to leave. I'm a flight today for my vacation. He literally said that he was leaving for vacation.
So you did tell me that. I remember you did tell me that, which was that's so fucked up, dude. That's just so how much were you on at that time? What milligrams were you on?
What do they do? Like 18, it's been years. It's like 18 milligram strips.
So I think they're 8, but they're strips. You were on the strips.
Or 12.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And I think on 2 a day or something, if I remember correctly.
Oh my God, Mike. And then he just cut you from the 2 to fucking nothing.
Yep.
Wow.
And I went into, yeah, maybe they were 12s. I went into withdrawals that night. Yeah, I started going into withdrawals. And I immediately knew that this was going to be completely different. This was going to be different than anything else that I'd ever been through. It was going to be different from heroin or pills or anything else that I'd ever had to kick.
Right.
Immediately, like within hours of me feeling the start of it, the withdrawals, I immediately knew that I was in for a ride. And it pissed me off. It pissed me off so much that I said, I'm going through this.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck that, dude.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna just kick. I'm kicking right now. That's what I'm doing. I was so angry. I was so angry. And that's what I did. I persevered off pure hate.
Yeah.
No, but it lasted for 3 weeks, maybe longer. My withdrawal process. It was pure hell. I was suicidal.
That's what I was gonna. I kind of want to get into that just a little bit because I don't know if it was because I dosed myself down. I never really got suicidal, but I did have a very spiritual awakening, and I feel like there's something stronger that kind of moves through me that's kind of helped me navigate all of this, right? Mm-hmm. But I never experienced the suicide, like wanting to like thoughts of that. But I do know of people. The very first girl that I interviewed, Lily Nova. She was telling me how she was in a treatment center and like the withdrawal symptoms were just so bad. She was like banging her head up against the damn. Yeah. I mean, it's unbearable. Right. So do you mind that? So you were, you told me you thought about taking your own life because it was so bad.
I did. I had a moment. I don't know how far into it I was. It was a week and a half, 2 weeks. It felt like two weeks withdrawing from this stuff you feel like you're in hell. You literally feel like you are stuck in hell and it's never going to end.
Yeah.
And I did. I was sitting on my bed. I got my gun. I had my gun against my head. And my dog, Ella, she came up and out of nowhere, she put her head in my lap. Wow. And was looking up at me, and I broke down right there. I put the gun down. Mm-hmm. And I made the decision that I wasn't going to check out. I wasn't going to let this beat me. Right. I was going to take care of her. Yeah. But I got about as low as you can get. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you shared that because I think it's so important for people to hear that. I really think it's important for people. People have to understand what's going on here. I mean, literal want to kill yourself because it's that hard to come off of. And I'm sorry that you went through that, Mike. How long were you on it? Do you remember? I mean, because I was on this shit for over 10 years.
Suboxone?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Longer than that. Yeah.
No, and yeah, here's the thing. It's, it's a synthetic drug. The half-life on it is so much worse than something like heroin or even the other types of pills and stuff, because they're all, they're all based on what, like, they're not all purely synthetic, or at least they didn't used to be. I don't know, but
Naloxone.
I can't imagine being on it for that long. I think I was only on it for, might have been less than a year,
Really?
and it
Yeah.
was that bad.
Yeah.
And you know, I everything that I've been doing with my channel and my work and my attitude has been to try to inspire people and be hopeful in my engagement. I have a few mistakes every now and then when people are assholes online. But generally,
Okay.
even to people who are being ugly, I try to respond with kindness. But I will tell you this: if if you need to hate something to get through this, to get off Suboxone, find something. Like, focus on whatever you need to focus on. It being better on the other side, because I'm here to tell you it is.
Mhm.
If you need to hate something while you're going through it to give you fuel, like I had,
Yeah.
and just pure stubbornness and tenacity, to make it through it, fix it afterwards. Deal with that afterwards, but do whatever you need to do to get through the period of time to get off of it, if you're choosing to get off of it. Now, I'm also not going to sit here, if it's working for somebody, and this is where you want to be. I'm not telling you to go out and just stop doing Suboxone, because you need to understand what you're getting into before you kick this stuff.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that life, for me, it, it's like I live in a different reality now.
Yeah.
I live in a completely different world.
Yeah.
It's so much better. It's full of hope. Um, I have gratitude every day that I wake up for my life and the people in it. More than anything that's come out of all this is my appreciation for people. I was so self-focused for so long on taking care of myself and getting high just by getting high.
Yeah.
It's such a, it's a, again, I'm not judging. We're all in our moments where we're at, but the life of an addict is an extremely selfish life.
Yeah.
All of your energy is focused on you and getting high. And, things are so much better on the other side. So if you do try to, I think if you're on Suboxone, you're at least in a mental state to be able to prepare yourself for what's ahead. And that's what's important, is people having the information to know what to expect, so they can put the pieces in place to help them if they try to get off of it. And, whether it's, like you said, having a routine, taking baths, showers and stuff, and knowing, and then having people surrounding you so you're not alone and you don't feel like you're gonna kill yourself, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
these are important things. It's good to prep for that. And by speaking it out loud and sharing it with people, you're removing this stigma, this veil of whatever that's keeping you in the dark from other people to be able to see what you're going through so that they can help you.
100% speaking. You got to speak your truth so that it
Right.
can start to unfold. Do you mind that I ask you, so for me, whenever I came off of Suboxone, I actually used kratom to help me, and it's such a controversial topic, but I'm constantly asked that question, and I'd kind of like to get your opinion on
Mm.
that.
Yeah.
I think kratom can serve a really good purpose if you use it mindfully, and you research the kratom. But what are
And
your thoughts?
kratom was a lifesaver for me.
Right?
Um, I don't go around recommending kratom, because some people have bad experiences with it, and you can
Yeah.
get addicted to kratom. And it is hard to get. It can be hard to get off kratom. For me, getting off kratom was more the kind of like psychological effects were, I don't know, more intense maybe than for some people, but
Hmm.
kratom helped me. And look, I think, understanding that this is a process. It's not like, again, it's not like you're sober quickly. I mean, I had years of going ups and downs, of going back and using again. And I had to kick heroin again, probably a couple times after I got off suboxone. But I was on this path, and kratom did help. And eventually I did have to kick kratom.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's, I don't know if you've been seeing in the chat, like 3 different people. Matt says he's been on it for almost 8. I know that somebody else in the chat had mentioned, I mean, lots of people are on it and they just don't want to. I mean, I've even had people wanting to come and speak their truth. And then they're like, okay, no, I'm not really ready. So that's why I'm so glad that we're doing this. But yeah, and I'm glad we covered the kratom thing too, because I do think it could be very helpful. And to me personally, if you can get through Suboxone, I mean, to me, what I did was I stopped taking the Suboxone and I just started using the kratom like 3 times a day. And it was still very challenging. I still felt like shit, but it kind of eased everything up. Then my body just kind of got adjusted to that. And then I weaned myself off of that. But I mean, it took a long freaking time. I mean, it took a long time. I mean, my body still, just from time to time will kind of have those post-acute withdrawal syndrome, like the sweatings and shit. So, and it hasn't quite been a year. I got off of it in February and we're in November.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm at the end of it though. I'm done with that.
I was on kratom for years afterwards.
Yeah.
It was a crutch for me.
Yeah.
But I think the other good thing that I was doing was I was going to counseling. I started seeing a counselor, and she's been instrumental in me developing some of those things that I was talking about earlier, these healthier behavior patterns and means of coping with things, and helping me build an understanding of, managing myself, my emotions, my past, looking at the past, dealing with things. And I still go see her. I'll see her this week. Yeah. I go see her regularly. Still to this day, it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made, but in which eventually, led to being encouraged to completely move on from kratom as well. But it did take me longer to get off kratom, and some of that might have been because I was still having these ups and downs, right?
Yeah.
Sobriety for me, or this getting off and moving away from opiates and Suboxone and stuff, it took several years.
Yeah.
And it's not like we were talking about before, the game has changed. It's not what it used to be, because some of the stuff, it's such a high tolerance, like everybody that's done this before. And I started using again at one point and overdosed on, such of what should have been a minimal amount comparatively, but it's because it was all fentanyl.
Yeah. Yep.
I woke up with paramedics around me and, not knowing what happened. I mean, like that, I was out. There was no controlling it. I was just out. Turned blue. My roommate called the 911. Ambulance came.
You remember none of it. You remember none of it. Yeah. No. Yeah. Same. No. We talked a little bit about this. I experienced the same thing. I did shoot this up. And it was, next thing I know, I'm in a hospital. I had overdosed. It was fentanyl. Somebody had tagged me, somebody had tagged me actually today on Facebook. I forgot to share it to Unveiling Addiction. I meant to do that. And it showed like how many pills. I swear they look like somas, like the amount of pills that could kill someone. Then like another thing, then it shows the amount of fentanyl it takes to kill someone. And the amount of fentanyl that was in that little tube was like just so tiny, so tiny. And you're right. The game has changed. You're not getting shit on the streets anymore. That is, it's all fentanyl. You're not getting, Vicodin. You're not getting Xanax. It's all pressed with fentanyl. And I'm very grateful that I'm not in that realm of addiction and wanting, because I was for a little, when I was, like you said, you have backslides, right? And so this, towards the beginning of my journey, I would have a few times where I would dabble and get stuff off the streets. And I'm just grateful that I, just started to clean up my act when I did, because it could have gotten really ugly. You're right. It's the game has changed. It's totally changed.
Yeah. This idea that I had for a period of time that I could just treat myself to a weekend of getting fucked up because I worked hard all month.
Right.
And I can manage that.
Yeah.
And you could the drug ads, they're true now. You can die off trying something once now.
Right.
Exactly. And I came real close probably 3 or 4 times after I got off the suboxone, and I had ups and downs. There were several times, waking up with people shaking me. Because my lips were purple when I was turning blue or whatever,
Yeah.
And passed out and fell and hit my head or whatever, and just collapsed and was out of it. And I was doing, huge amounts of opiates when I was using hardcore,
Oh yeah. Like 20 a day. I was taking
9, 10 Oxy 80s in a night. Like,
yeah. Listen, Mike, I want to share this with you. So my first experience with oxys, it was the green back in the, like when people were like crushing them and snorting them and shit. Right. Yeah. And so I was not even 20 years old. I was so young, and I went into, and them fuckers were expensive. Right. And I went, I went into my friend's house, and they had like they had rails like out on the bar, and I just grabbed a straw and just did the rail. And he was so pissed because it was an 80. It wasn't even Coke. And I mean, oh man, was I in for it. I was so messed up. I was so blowed. I liked it entirely too much. So yeah, that stuff. Interesting. That's sorry, I got distracted. I didn't mean to get distracted there. We have someone here. Thanks to host Chastity, I'm working way down. So Matt, I believe, is on suboxone, and I try to tell everybody one thing that I encourage people to do is, when I first jumped off of this suboxone, I did a video of how I did it, because I got so many people asking me how I did it. And so I made a video and kind of just went into what I did. And then as I sat with myself a little bit more, I realized my journey is not going to be the same journey as other people. Right. And so what I did was start meditating every single day, whatever that looks like for you, just undisturbed time with yourself, and strengthening up that intuition that will guide you as to what to do on how to come off it. And I truly believe that that's what happened with me, because I started meditating, and then I just started doing things. I just started dosing down, then it was like I strengthened up my intuition, and my high self just kind of guided me through the whole process. So, yeah, Matt, absolutely. Much love, Chastity. Thank you for that. The holistic approach. That's right. The answers are within you. That's right. Let's see. I'm going to see. There's some other stuff in the chat here. I think there's 3 different people that I overdosed. Let's see. Let me see. I overdosed on a shot of heroin and 2 green Xanny bars. Don't know how I survived, but they gave me Narcan and I woke back up. Scariest thing ever. Yeah, I've had a couple of overdose experience, not just once. You were mentioning that too. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. So how are you feeling now? You feel great now, huh?
Me?
Yeah.
I feel great.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, something that I think has been really important is I talk about this sometimes when it comes up, or any of this comes up, is I never want to be defined as a, what's that?
How's that whiskey? I'm just playing. Go ahead. Sorry.
So this is how I cope now.
Right. Yeah.
Lots of coffee.
Right.
But I never wanted to define myself as an addict. Like I talked about earlier, I felt like there was a deeper root issue going on here, and the drugs and alcohol or whatever was just a symptom of that. So I needed to go deeper and attack what that was. But on the other side of that, about once you get sober, there can be a period of time for people where life just seems dim and dull, right?
Yeah.
Because getting high, if it's amazing. Like, let's just not sugarcoat it. Getting high is amazing. It's an
Yep.
amazing feeling.
Yep.
It's like a perfect solution temporarily to all of your problems.
Yep.
It,
Euphoric.
it just, it is what it is. And there's a reason why so many people get hooked on whatever, on anything, because it feels good, right?
Yeah.
So it's really important that not only are you doing the work, this is in my opinion, that not only are you doing the work, I think it's important to be looking into, like, seeking help, getting a counselor, finding someone you trust that you can talk about issues with, about all this stuff. And I'm not knocking AA and NA and stuff like that. If that works, then do that.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think what a lot of times doesn't get talked about, which has been instrumental for me in moving on, is
Mm-hmm.
finding something that I'm passionate about. I found something finally. I've been, I prayed my journey was just weird, trying to figure out how to fit into society and either be a good person and do the right thing and, like, be successful, and trying to do the traditional paths just never worked for me.
Right.
And when I stopped trying to do that, it was like I figured out what I wanted to do, or I just found something I really loved doing, which is going to ancient sites around the world, right? Traveling and documenting all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I just leaned into that. And if there's something, figuring out something that you truly love and that you're passionate about, and doing that can really go a long way to your mental health, to your happiness,
Yeah.
to feeling a sense of joy in your life, and like you're being successful. Um, I've never worked harder in my life than I have since I've been doing all this, but not a day goes by where it feels like work. Okay, wait, no, I'm not. There's days where it feels like work,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. And you don't necessarily have to, like, build something out of scratch and do something like what I'm doing, but we're finding something that you truly enjoy and making that an aspect of your life that you're pouring into, I think is really important.
Yeah.
So even if it's helping other people just by sharing your story and commenting and being involved in, like, maybe it's a group online and connecting with people, it can even be as simple as that, building friendships and things.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more with that, because, it's interesting when I first went on this journey, and I was going to these suboxone clinics because I was still taking it. I knew I wanted to help people in recovery or whatever, I'm there with you. I'm right there with you. I don't, I do think the body does get addicted to things, but I think it's big pharma things really. But anyways, but I'm right there. I'm right there with you, fulfilling your soul, doing something that you love. When I first started this little journey, I was getting pushback too from trying to come off of the suboxone. And so I was even wanting to work in these clinics with them because I thought, I didn't know yet. I just didn't know, I was just starting out. And the more that I understood these clinics, the more that I realized, I was like, I can't do that. I'm going to be on suboxone. Oh, well, they're all on it. I'm like, what? The counselors are on the suboxone too. What kind of fresh fuckery? Like, this is nonsense, right? But I still was like, okay, no judgment. They just have their own experiences, whatever. And so I wanted to go back, we're so programmed to, I'm going to go to college and get my degree and help people out. I'm going to get a counseling degree, yankety yank. Right. And so, especially when you're influenced by other people and so I switched schools, and I tried to sign up not just once, but 3 different times. I was dropped. 3 different times I was dropped. And I know it was because that was the universe's way of being like, you don't need this. You don't need this to help people. And honestly, I didn't, because I've helped quite a bit of people, and it's so much more fulfilling because it's organic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I agree with that wholeheartedly. Yeah. tune in and find something that you really, really love to do. And service to others definitely is fulfilling. That's how we kind of start healing this planet. So you wrote a book. Do you want to get into that a little bit? Or are you still working on that?
I'm wrapping it all up. Yep.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, am I not supposed to say anything?
No, you're good. I'm at the end stages of wrapping up my book. I hope it's out around the beginning of the next new year.
Okay.
Maybe before, it depends. And it's basically it's just an autobiography of my journey up to this point. And a lot of it has to do with making a lot of the changes that we've gone over here tonight, just in more detail on changing my life from, for the first at least 35 years, maybe 38 years, not really believing that there was anything for me. Childhood of abuse, being a product of the system, losing friends and family along the way, just a lot of loss, failed relationships, and all sorts of things, drug abuse and stuff like that. But then I think just finding, getting to a point of just, first of all, making any of the changes and getting a better life, getting to where I'm at now, none of it would have been possible without getting off of the drugs.
Right.
So such an instrumental part of making any kind of change is freeing yourself from the chains of your past, looking at all of that directly and intentionally and unflinchingly and facing it. And some of the biggest changes in my life happened when I started taking responsibility for literally everything. Because up to a certain point, I always I don't know that I ever said it in my own head, but I kind of viewed myself as a victim. And this is still a mentality that I deal with sometimes to this day, You can't spend almost four decades looking at yourself negatively and as a victim and just somebody who life happens to, without it being rooted in quite a bit. But, there was a point where I started taking responsibility for everything. And there was a moment where I said, yeah, maybe all these bad things happened to you when you were younger, but you're an adult now. You're making your own decisions, and you have been for quite a long time.
Yeah.
So where you're at now is entirely your fault. Entirely. Right?
Right.
And once I faced the reality of that, it shifted my brain into a different perspective of now being able to acknowledge that I'm the one that's making the decisions, which means I can make a different decision. And that's what I started doing. And then you just try to have little wins.
Yeah.
And eventually little wins start adding up, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And next thing you know, you're changing patterns of behavior. You're learning new things. And before you know it, you're 5 years, 10 years on, and you're a completely different person. If I ran into myself from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I don't even know. I don't even know who that is anymore.
Yep. I completely, yep.
The Mike that we're talking about in a lot of this, I don't know who that is. I don't know that guy. And I had to put him to rest.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You have to shift that perspective. It's interesting reflecting back on the way that I used to play such the victim. And now, if I mention something, things don't bother me anymore. And I think it's just because of the things that I've lived through, So like sometimes I'll be talking to somebody and they'll be like, oh, I'm like, don't fucking do that. You know what I mean? Like, don't make me feel like a ninny. You don't feel sorry for me. Don't do that. And I guess it's just because, I appreciate it or whatever, but it's like, we don't have time for that shit. I did enough of that shit the poor me, pity me. Game, so
something else amazing comes from taking personal responsibility in your life.
Okay.
Once you start doing that, you can affect change in your own life. And with me, this idea that I was trapped in this cycle of just my life sucks, disappeared. And then what eventually came in, totally unexpected. But what came in later at a certain point was gratitude.
Yeah.
I started living with gratitude. I started waking up at some point and being grateful for my life. I pinch myself sometimes and I'm like, this is my life. Like I'm doing what I want, and I'll be traveling somewhere, some amazing part of the world, having incredible experiences, and I have to just stop and sit there and go, this is my life.
Yeah.
None of this ever seemed possible to me before. And all of a sudden I have gratitude. Like, what the fuck is that? You know, it's amazing and it feels so good. And then I think on the other side of gratitude is eventually joy,
Yeah.
a joyful life, and a life that 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 you can be proud of, and you start looking back on things and feeling proud of things instead of regret and loss and
Poor
all
me.
these things. And I just want to say to your viewers, you deserve that. So whatever lies are going through your head that keep you in a state of feeling like you deserve the drugs and this other stuff and just feeling a certain way, that's all bullshit.
That's right.
You deserve to have a life where you wake up every day and you feel grateful and you're happy and you're pursuing things that you love and enjoy, and you're surrounded by people that support you and care about you. You deserve that.
Yeah.
And you can get it. And it may take a lot of work wherever you're at in the process, but it is, I'm telling you, it's worth it.
Okay. I'm glad you said that because, and I'm going to go ahead and just say this. I know we're like 56 minutes, but I think it's important that I say this. You are 100% right. Surrounding yourself with people that love and support you and genuinely support you. Okay. So I've been on this healing journey for a very long time. And, like you said, we don't go backwards, you know what I mean? Like, but we do. There are some times that we go back, and I will tell you, the current situation that I am has become a little bit unsustainable now. You know what I mean? I'm very grateful for it. I'm very grateful for the experience because I grew in a lot of ways, but I am noticing, that I am noticing that I'm wanting to like go have a mimosa, you know what I mean? So it's tied to, where you're at and like what you're doing, like I'm learning a lot of things about it is where I'm going with that, because before I got to where I'm at right now, I had no desire to go and escape and try to and I'm noticing a little bit more and more that it's, especially because the past 2 weeks, I haven't been able to work out. Today was my first day. I kind of needed to give my body a little bit of a rest. I think I may have done a little bit more than I should have kind of quickly. That's okay. But so I'm kind of resting for 2 weeks. And when I don't have movement, you know what I mean? I'm noticing with everything that I'm just kind of processing or whatever, I'm running and I'm like, why am I in? I'm observing my thoughts and my wants, and I'm like wanting to have like a drink, and I don't know. I just kind of wanted to express that. I think people need to hear that because, it's not a perfect journey. And I'm going to have a drink from time to time. I don't know, because I wasn't for a while there. And now I'm noticing, it's important to have a good support system. It's important to be surrounded by people that genuinely and truly want the best for you, because it's not sustainable any other way. It's just not.
And people share what you're going through and connect with people. People care. I care. Chastity cares. People care.
Yeah.
That you're going through this. If you're out there and you're trying to get on the other side of something, people care, and there's people out there that care and want to be there for you. Yeah,
totally. And you're right, because I'm kind of experiencing that right now too. I don't want to burden anybody with the shit that I'm dealing with or going through, right? And I'm realizing that's what chastity, that's what you are doing, what you're doing. So you've created the support system so that you can do that, so that you can reach out and just let people know. So yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that. And Jason just wants to know, is his channel name Wandering Wolf Productions? Yes.
Wandering Wolf. If you're looking on YouTube, it's just Wandering Wolf.
Oh, Wandering Wolf. Yeah.
Wandering Wolf Productions is my business, and then Wandering Wolf is the channel.
Okay, wonderful. So what's next for you? I mean, you're such a busy guy. You're always going. I'm always like, can I hang out with you? I'm bored. But you're
I
just always busy. I know. I
yeah,
love that. But what's next for you?
I leave on Thursday. I'm going back to Peru.
Are you?
There's a site down there that hasn't been well documented and is new to the community. I don't hardly anybody knows about it, and I think it's going to be a big deal. So I'm looking to film that. I've got the book release coming out. I host tours
Yep.
to places. I've got a tour that's live right now. You can jump on if you'd like. It still has early bird pricing to Oaxaca, Mexico,
Okay.
in May. And you can find that information on my website, wanderingwolfproductions.com. So if you want to join me on a tour, we just got back from a tour to Peru like 2 weeks ago. I just did that with a group of 24 people. It was incredible. Made some amazing friends. And in fact, I've already traveled with a couple people that I just met on the tour up to Montana and filmed a video up there and released that. That one's blowing up right now on my channel. It's called The Key on the Wall.
Yeah.
And yeah, good
Just
stuff,
living
market
the
stuff.
dream.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and there's a tour to Turkey coming out. Hope to release the information for that by the end of the year or January.
Oh, a tour
A lot
to
of stuff going on.
Yeah, you got a lot. I thought you were about to talk about turkey Thanksgiving. I don't know, but you're going to turkey.
And if you're into the ancient history stuff, you can go to my channel. I just did an interview with Graham Hancock, and that one is awesome. We sit down and we talk about pursuing your passion and all sorts of different stuff with him, a little outside of what he normally talks about with the ancient history stuff. And it's a 2-hour interview and we really get into it. If you go over to my channel, it's the featured video on there and you can check that out.
So I'm kind of glad. I just wanted one more thing. I mean, I wanted to ask you. I'm glad you mentioned that, and then I will let you go. I promise. But
Yeah.
so Graham Hancock got into a little bit of how he experimented with ayahuasca. And I found that incredibly fascinating. And I'm so glad that he shared that because I had somebody on my show that was in AA for a long time and did all the steps. I mean, this was a big part of his life for years and years, like over a decade. And then there was just some unresolved stuff still. He just felt like there was still some unresolved stuff. And so he went and did ayahuasca and he started to hone in on that unresolved stuff. But then when he went back to AA, they were literally like, nope, you're starting over. All this bullshit that he just didn't subscribe to anymore.
Yeah.
And anyways, the whole point of that is, I mean, have you ever tried ayahuasca or any plant medicine? I will tell you, mushrooms tremendously help me come off of suboxone.
Yeah. I've done ayahuasca several times.
Yeah.
I've used microdose mushrooms and they've been incredibly helpful. I absolutely think that mushrooms can be used effectively for things like depression and all sorts of stuff. I don't really use any of it anymore. My experience with ayahuasca was a little bit different. I had already been doing a lot of the work for years, and really looking hard at it myself. It was some tough years. So my experience on ayahuasca, was a little different. I remember, the first or second time I did it, there being a voice that was just like, tonight isn't about you. And I spent the rest of the night just taking care of people around me.
Oh, wow.
It was really intense. A bunch of people that were freaking out and getting sick. And, I believe that plant medicine, I believe that almost anything that's natural and from the earth has some kind of holistic purpose.
Yeah.
And can be used for good. But where I'm at now isn't, I don't really. I used to trip balls when I was younger. my intake of psychedelics has been, like.
Yeah, I think we had that conversation. I don't think I've quite taken enough to help me kind of get there. I think because I get nervous and not just that, I throw up.
Yeah.
I don't like throwing up. Do you throw up when you take shrooms?
No, I don't throw up hardly with anything. If I'm throwing up, it's like something's messing me up really bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
So you've taken you a macro dose. Did it do some, did it, listen, why did do what I do know about shrooms is it'll show you some things about yourself that that you didn't like. I actually took some just a couple weeks ago and I didn't realize I was running from something. I mean, I was really running from it. And then I took these mushrooms and I didn't realize, and then it literally showed me myself running and it stopped me and made me turn around and look at it. Right. Like it was just, yeah, and then I just start crying, and here we go.
I think there's this whole world of inside of us that we can access that people
Yeah,
for thousands of years have been using stuff like this to access in ways that are like overlapping, with kind of our dream state and
yeah,
our awake state. And I think that there's healthy, responsible ways that you can do that. I mean, I've talked to too many people who've had such incredible experiences and have changed their life and stuff with stuff like this. And I know, science has now shown the effects of and how it's helpful and whatnot.
right.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Yeah. Well, and also, like you said, ancient, I mean, they've been using mushrooms, but
Yeah.
RFK, wait, where did that, oh, I hate the throwing up part. My friend Derek, he grew some mushrooms. See, I am not the only one that throws up. Well, Mike, I appreciate you coming on here today. This was really important to me, and I really, really, it really meant a lot to me. So, is there anything you'd like to share? Any last words that you like to, you know, tell to the audience or anybody
Well,
listening?
I just want to thank you for having me on. I am glad that we connected. It's been awesome. Like you got sober and just took off like a rocket. So
Thanks.
hats off to you for
Yeah.
finding something you're passionate about and diving into it. And I mean, the fact that you just this year kicked all of this and we're not even a year from that and you're already building a community of people that are helping each other and doing all this is amazing. I couldn't be happier to call you a friend and thank you for having me on your show. If I was going to say anything to anybody watching, I'd just say it gets better. No matter what you're doing, if you're in a high spot, a low spot, or anything happens in the future, just keep trying to move forward. That's all you have to do is not quit. So much of the time, it's just about not quitting, and
Yeah.
and be easy on yourself if you're going through the process. Is
That's
just
right.
like don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
If you go back and you use again,
It's okay.
reflect on it and look at it intentionally,
Right.
and learn from it, and talk to somebody, and just know that that it gets so much better. It
Yeah.
does. It gets so much better.
Yeah, and that's so important. Being patient and being okay with yourself, because a lot of the times when people are reaching out to me and they're beat their self up, I had to dose again. I couldn't hold out. And they're beating
I
themselves
get it.
up.
I
Yeah,
get it.
that's okay. It's all right. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. But let's shift that energy with where you're so upset with. You're just shift it that you're going to keep on freaking going and you're going to get through the next whatever
Right.
it was that you didn't, so but I'm glad that you're on the Unveiling Facebook page because I'm trying to get more and more people over there. I already managed to do 700 in a couple of months, which is really good. I mean, I spent a lot of time doing that. But
Yeah.
I'm glad you're over there because I see you engaging with people and people that are just, like the stuff about the sublocade, blah, blah, blah. I don't even want to get into it. You know what I mean? I don't know how I feel about all that. I mean, I know how I feel. I think it's all a bunch of bullshit, but anyways, thank you for, yeah. Thank you for, because
You're out.
if we get going on that, we'll keep
Yeah.
going probably.
Yeah. The pharmaceutical industry is not your friend.
Nope.
And they do not have your best interests at heart.
Nope.
And the sooner you can get free of them, in my opinion, the better.
And if you are on a pharmaceutical, a lot of people be like, oh, well, I can guarantee you whatever you've got going on, the pharmaceuticals are causing that because we are healthy human beings.
Yeah, we didn't even tonight get into the controlling of the opium market and the pharmaceutical country and the wars that are caused from that, and
Yeah.
you know, and then creating the cure to the epidemic that they've caused. It's so that they have monthly paying customers, and it's a racket.
Yeah.
Use whatever you need to stay sober and off things that'll kill you. It Getting off of heroin, opiates, and access to things like fentanyl that'll put you under, and being on suboxone is better. Being on suboxone is better than that.
That's right.
Being on kratom is better than suboxone.
That's
Being
right.
off everything is better than kratom. Just whatever your process is, totally fine. If I think you're moving away from that far end of the spectrum.
Yeah. The mere fact that you're just considering to make a change is the best start. So that's
100%.
perfect. What a great way to end. Well, listen, thank you everybody in the chat. I see Jane in there. I didn't say hi to everybody. I really appreciate it. Hey, fuck, what does he say? What does he say? What does he say? Fuck the farm. They victimized you. Yeah, Big Pharma, screw Big Pharma. I really appreciate everybody coming in to the chat today. I can't remember who it was that wanted to reach out to me. Y'all are amazing. Well said, Mike, that wants to come on my show. I would be honored.
What up, crypto?
What's that?
I was just saying, what's up to crypto?
Yeah. So I think it was him that said that he wanted to come on my show, and I would be honored to have you. So
good dude. I've done his show. Y'all should connect for sure.
Okay, great. Yeah. Well, get in touch with me or reach out to Mike. And Mike, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye.